Friends, if you want to watch the super hit movie Karate Kid Legends 2025 in English, then you must like this video. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video, the movie we are going to talk about is called Karate Kid Legends 2025. We will cover what this movie is all about, where you can watch it, and all the interesting facts behind the scenes. I will guide you through the technical departments, the music, pre-production, filming, post-production, budget and box office. You will also hear a concise story overview and a short review of the plot. We will also break down the star cast performances, who played which role, and which moments really stood out. So make sure to watch this video till the end to get everything you need to know about Karate Kid Legends 2025. Karate Kid Legends 2025 is one of the most awaited movies of the year and has attracted attention not only because of its story but also because of the legacy that comes with the Karate Kid franchise. Fans of martial arts cinema and longtime followers of the original films have been eagerly waiting for this chapter. The movie promises to bring together action, drama, and emotional storytelling in a way that appeals to both older fans and a new generation of viewers. It is not simply a continuation but also a fresh take that tries to balance nostalgia with modern cinematic style. When we talk about the technical departments behind Karate Kid Legends 2025, it is important to mention the direction and cinematography. The director has taken special care to ensure that the martial arts sequences feel authentic, intense, and cinematic. The camera work highlights not only the fights but also the emotions on the faces of the characters. Lighting, production design, and editing all come together to create a movie that feels polished and engaging. These elements make sure the audience stays connected to the journey of the characters and the heart of the story. Music is another key element of this film. The soundtrack has been designed to carry both the spirit of traditional Karate Kid themes and the energy of modern beats. Music plays a big role during training montages, emotional confrontations, and especially during the final climactic fight. The score does not overpower the story but complements it, making moments more memorable. Fans who love the classic soundtracks will notice familiar tones mixed with new arrangements to give the movie its own unique identity. Pre-production of Karate Kid Legends 2025 was carefully planned. From casting decisions to fight choreography, everything was mapped out before filming began. The team brought in martial arts experts to ensure the techniques shown on screen were realistic and respectful of the traditions they represent. Locations were selected not only for their visual appeal but also for how they connected to the cultural background of the story. The attention to detail in pre-production has made the movie stand out as more than just another action film. During filming, the cast underwent intense physical training. Many of the actors performed their own stunts to add authenticity to the fight sequences. The filming schedule was challenging, but the result shows on screen. Beautifully shot training scenes, dramatic emotional moments, and powerful fight sequences were all captured with dedication. Post-production then added the finishing touches. Editing was used to tighten the pacing, and sound design made sure that every punch, kick, and block felt impactful. Visual effects were used sparingly, focusing on enhancing rather than dominating the action. When it comes to budget and box office expectations, Karate Kid Legends 2025 has been positioned as a major release. The production invested heavily in quality, making sure the film could compete with other global blockbusters. Marketing campaigns have been widespread, ensuring that audiences from different countries know about the release. Early box office tracking indicates strong numbers, with fans eager to see how the new story unfolds. Now let us briefly talk about the story without giving away too many spoilers. Karate Kid Legends 2025 centers on a new generation of students who must learn discipline, respect, and courage while facing personal and external challenges. At the same time, it pays homage to the older characters who shaped the franchise. The narrative blends themes of mentorship, friendship, rivalry, and self-discovery. It is not only about fighting but also about values, making it a movie that carries both action and heart. The performances of the cast deserve special attention. Each actor has put an effort to bring their role to life. The young leads capture the energy and vulnerability of characters trying to prove themselves. The returning actors from earlier Karate Kid films bring a sense of wisdom and continuity. Their presence bridges the past with the present, giving longtime fans moments of nostalgia while still moving the story forward. Standout performances include scenes of emotional mentorship, dramatic rivalries, and powerful final confrontations. In conclusion, Karate Kid Legends 2025 is more than just a martial arts movie. It is a cinematic experience that combines technical brilliance, emotional depth, and memorable performances. Whether you are a fan of the original franchise or someone new to the story, this movie offers something exciting. From its careful pre-production to its thrilling fight sequences and heartfelt story, it stands as one of the strongest entries in the Karate Kid legacy. Make sure to watch this video till the end as we dive deeper into all the details that make Karate Kid Legends 2025 a must-watch film. Karate Kid Legends 2025 tells the story of Li Fong, a young martial arts prodigy from Beijing who relocates to New York with his mother in search of a new beginning. The move is not only about better education and opportunities but also about healing from personal loss and adjusting to a life that is very different from what he has known. Li carries with him a strong background in Kung Fu, having trained under his Shifu Mr. Han, but in New York he is thrust into a culture where karate dominates the martial arts scene. This clash of styles and philosophies becomes the central theme of his journey. At his new school, Li struggles to fit in. His talent is quickly noticed, but instead of admiration it brings rivalry and jealousy. He befriends Mia Lipany, a classmate who offers support when he feels isolated, and her father Victor Lipany, a retired boxer who understands the discipline of combat sports. Victor becomes an ally, helping Li adapt to the new environment while still staying true to his roots. The friendship with Mia grounds Li emotionally and shows him that despite cultural differences, bonds can be built through mutual respect and understanding. Tension arises when Li's martial arts skills catch the attention of a local karate champion. This young fighter and his circle of loyal students see Li as a threat to their dominance. They challenge him openly, forcing Li to prove himself in ways he was not prepared for. What begins as schoolyard rivalry grows into a larger conflict tied to local tournaments, community pride, and questions of identity. Li finds himself at a crossroads, torn between maintaining loyalty to his Kung Fu background and adapting to the karate techniques that surround him in his new life. The turning point comes when Li reconnects with Mr. Han, the mentor who originally taught him discipline, balance, and the philosophy behind Kung Fu. At the same time, he receives guidance from Daniel LaRusso, the legendary student of Mr. Miyagi. Daniel brings wisdom from his own journey and teaches Li that martial arts is not only about fighting but also about humility and self-respect. This merging of mentorships allows Li to explore both traditions, combining the fluid grace of Kung Fu with the structured power of karate. The film uses this mentorship dynamic to bridge generations of martial arts storytelling, showing that wisdom can be shared across cultures and eras. Training sequences form a core part of the narrative. Li undergoes intense physical preparation, often blending the discipline of Kung Fu drills with the meditative methods passed down from Miyagi through Daniel LaRusso. These scenes are both inspiring and symbolic, representing Li's path towards self-discovery. The montages are not just about kicks and punches but about learning patience, responsibility, and control. They highlight how strength without wisdom can become destructive, while true mastery lies in restraint and purpose. As the film builds toward its climax, Li faces mounting pressure from rivals and from within himself. The final act centers on a major martial arts tournament that brings together fighters from across the community. Here Li must prove not only his physical abilities but also his ability to stay true to who he is. The matches are staged to test his courage, adaptability, and composure. The climax is not simply about victory but about Li realizing that success comes from merging the best parts of his past with the lessons of his present. The cast adds depth and credibility to the story. Ben Wang plays Li Fong, bringing both vulnerability and determination to the role. Jackie Chan reprises Mr. Han, providing continuity from the 2010 film and grounding Li's training in tradition. Ralph Macchio returns as Daniel LaRusso, offering guidance that connects directly to the legacy of Mr. Miyagi. Joshua Jackson portrays Victor Lipany, the retired boxer who becomes a crucial supporter in Li's journey, while Sadie Stanley plays Mia Lipany, Li's close friend who stands by him in his struggles. Ming Na Wen plays Dr. Fong, Li's caring mother who supports him while dealing with her own challenges as a single parent. Aramis Knight and Wyatt Olef appear as rivals who test Li's resolve, while William Zabka makes a surprise appearance that ties the story back to earlier Karate Kid rivalries. Karate Kid Legends 2025 is not just a martial arts movie. It is a story about identity, friendship, mentorship, and respect. The narrative uses martial arts as a framework for deeper lessons about courage, resilience, and finding balance between past and present. For longtime fans, it provides nostalgia through returning characters and philosophies that echo earlier films. For new audiences, it offers a fresh hero, a modern story, and themes that feel relevant today. The result is a film that blends action with heart, showing that the true spirit of karate and kung fu lies not only in strength but in wisdom, compassion, and honor. Karate Kid's Legends 2025 opens with a striking image of Li Fong and his mother leaving Beijing behind as they prepare to start a new life in New York. This opening sets the emotional tone of transition, loss, and uncertainty. It gives us a glimpse of Li's inner world, a boy shaped by kung fu training and by the steady hand of his Shifu Mr. Han, yet now uprooted and placed into an environment that feels both overwhelming and foreign. The film wastes no time establishing the theme of cultural displacement, setting the stage for Li's journey towards self-discovery. The setup introduces Li's arrival at a new school, where he is both fascinated and intimidated by the differences in culture and expectations. His martial arts background remains hidden at first, but subtle scenes show his discipline and physical control. He befriends Mia Lipany, who brings warmth and humor into his otherwise difficult adjustment, and through her he meets her father Victor, a retired boxer who quickly senses Li's quiet strength. These early moments highlight friendship and mentorship, while also setting up the tension of Li being an outsider who must prove himself in a new community. The inciting incident arrives when Li's skills are revealed during a confrontation at school. A local karate champion and his close circle of rivals notice Li's abilities and immediately see him as a threat. What could have been a minor scuffle escalates into a challenge that ripples through the school and eventually the wider martial arts community. This incident transforms Li's quiet existence into a path of conflict, setting him on a collision course with opponents who embody arrogance, dominance, and the misuse of strength. The stakes become clear. Li cannot simply blend into the background. He must either face his rivals or retreat from who he really is. The rising action is built around Li's training and inner struggle. Mr. Han re-enters the story to guide Li in the traditions of Kung Fu, reminding him of balance, patience, and respect. At the same time, Daniel LaRusso steps into the picture, offering his perspective rooted in the Miyagi philosophy of karate. The film skillfully weaves their mentorship into Li's journey, showing how two very different styles can shape one student into a more complete fighter and person. The narrative alternates between training sequences, personal interactions, and growing hostility from the rival group. These sections keep the energy high while deepening the emotional core, as Li must reconcile loyalty to his past with the demands of his present. The midpoint turn comes with the official announcement of a tournament. This is more than a competition, it is positioned as the ultimate stage where Li's identity, skill, and courage will be tested. The tension spikes as his rivals prepare aggressively, trying to intimidate him and undermine his confidence. The midpoint is effective because it shifts the focus from personal survival to public confrontation, raising the stakes to a level that forces Li to make irreversible choices. The emotional intensity rises as Li's mother expresses fear for his safety, while Mia encourages him to embrace who he is rather than hide. From here, the film pushes into its second half with training montages that blend styles. The audience sees Li performing kung fu drills with Mr. Han, then learning breathing, balance, and focused patience with Daniel LaRusso. These moments are not just visually engaging but also narratively important. They show Li's evolution into a fighter who embodies both traditions while also forging his own path. This section also gives the audience time to connect with Li emotionally, making his eventual challenges resonate more deeply. As the tournament approaches, the rising tension culminates in smaller conflicts, including one rival ambushing Li outside of practice. These scenes serve as mini-climaxes that test his discipline. Rather than retaliate recklessly, Li applies the lessons of restraint, proving his maturity even before stepping into the ring. This narrative choice reminds viewers that true martial arts mastery lies in control, not aggression. The finale is structured around the tournament itself. Each fight is carefully staged to escalate suspense, with Li facing multiple opponents who test different aspects of his training. The film emphasizes both the physical choreography and the emotional weight, as Li remembers his teacher's lessons at critical moments. The final match pits him against the reigning champion, where the tension is not only about victory but about proving his place in a community that doubted him. The choreography highlights a fusion of kung fu fluidity and karate precision, underscoring the film's central message about blending traditions. The emotional peak comes when Li is nearly defeated but finds strength in recalling his mentor's teachings. Rather than fight with anger, he fights with balance and respect, ultimately overcoming his rival in a way that demonstrates not just skill but also moral clarity. The victory is earned not through brute force but through self-mastery, making the ending feel both thrilling and meaningful. The final beat shows Li being accepted by peers who once rejected him, while his mentors watch with pride. Daniel and Mr. Han share a silent moment of respect, acknowledging that the torch has been passed to a new generation. The narrative closes not just with triumph but with a sense of continuation, leaving room for future stories while wrapping up this chapter with emotional satisfaction. Karate Kid's Legends 2025 uses a linear narrative structure but carefully reveals information at just the right pace. The setup grounds us in Lee's emotional reality, the inciting incident drives the plot forward, the midpoint redefines the stakes, and the finale provides both resolution and catharsis. By focusing equally on physical action and emotional depth, the film delivers a story that is easy to follow, rich with character growth, and layered with meaning beyond the surface of martial arts competition. Karate Kid's Legends 2025 is built on the strength of its characters, each carrying their own desires, flaws, and transformations that shape the story. The film's success lies not only in its action but also in how its characters grow, regress, or reveal hidden depths along the way. The protagonist, Li Fong, begins as a disciplined yet uncertain teenager. When the movie opens, he is a boy uprooted from Beijing, carrying the grief of personal loss and the weight of leaving behind everything familiar. He wants stability, belonging, and a chance to honor the martial training he received from his Shifu Mr. Han. His primary obstacle is cultural displacement. In New York he is viewed as an outsider, and his martial arts background, instead of being celebrated, becomes a source of rivalry and tension. At first Lee is hesitant to reveal his skills, worried about standing out too much. Small gestures, such as him restraining his movements in gym class or deflecting questions about his past, show his reluctance. Over time his arc shifts. The inciting conflict with the local karate champion forces him to stop hiding. Training with both Mr. Han and Daniel LaRusso helps him discover that his identity does not have to be split between kung fu and karate. By the finale, Lee emerges as a confident young man who has blended tradition with adaptation, earning respect without abandoning who he is. His arc is about turning displacement into empowerment. The antagonist, a local karate champion, represents arrogance and dominance. He begins the story as the top fighter in his community, secure in his reputation. What he wants is recognition and control. When Lee enters the scene, he feels threatened, interpreting Lee's presence as a challenge to his authority. His obstacle is his own ego. Throughout the film he mocks Lee, provokes him, and stages confrontations. His gestures are often sharp and aggressive, such as clenching fists during dialogue or smirking when Lee hesitates. By the climax he embodies everything Lee must overcome: pride, aggression, and the belief that strength is about intimidation rather than respect. The antagonist does not undergo significant growth. Instead, his stagnation serves as a foil to Lee's development, highlighting the difference between external power and internal mastery. Mr. Han, played by Jackie Chan, starts the movie as a figure from Lee's past, the mentor who once instilled values of discipline and patience. At the beginning his role is distant, as Lee is geographically separated from him. When Mr. Han re-enters the story, his presence stabilizes Lee and reminds him of his roots. Mr. Han's arc is subtle. He is not learning new lessons for himself but learning to let Lee grow beyond his teachings. In one scene he quietly observes Lee practicing karate drills under Daniel LaRusso, and instead of interrupting, he offers a nod of respect. This moment signals his acceptance that his student can learn from multiple sources. Mr. Han's development is about humility as a teacher, understanding that mentorship means preparing students to surpass the master. Daniel LaRusso, reprised by Ralph Macchio, enters as a bridge between the old Karate Kid legacy and the new story. At the start he is presented as wise but slightly cautious, unsure whether his methods are relevant to a new generation. His desire is to honor Mr. Miyagi's philosophy while guiding Lee through the challenges of adaptation. His obstacle is skepticism, both from himself and from Lee, who at first struggles to connect with Daniel's slower, meditative approach. Over time Daniel proves that his lessons about balance, patience, and respect are timeless. By the end Daniel experiences renewal. He realizes that mentoring Lee allows him to continue Miyagi's legacy, showing that his own growth as a teacher is still ongoing. Mia Lipani plays the role of Lee's close friend and confidant. At the start she is simply curious about him, but as the story develops, she becomes his emotional anchor. She wants Lee to succeed but also to feel at home. Her obstacles are the pressures of her peers, some of whom mock her for associating with the outsider. She demonstrates growth through her loyalty. A key moment occurs when she defends Lee in front of other students, showing courage that parallels his. By the end she becomes more than a side character. She embodies the theme of acceptance and reminds the audience that relationships can transcend cultural divides. Victor Lipany, her father, represents a different type of mentor. At the beginning he is retired from fighting, content to live quietly. His desire is to see discipline and respect in the next generation. When he notices Lee's potential, he becomes involved again, offering guidance rooted not in martial arts traditions but in the grit of boxing. His obstacle is his own reluctance to re-engage with a world he left behind. Over the film, through Lee, he reconnects with his own values. His small arc is about rediscovering purpose in mentorship. Supporting characters, including rivals and classmates, are not mere window dressing. Each adds weight to Lee's journey. Some rivals show cruelty that tests Lee's restraint, while others, though antagonistic, eventually offer grudging respect. These minor shifts reinforce the message that even small character beats matter in shaping the protagonist's growth. By the end of the film, the character development across the cast creates a layered narrative. Lee transforms from an uncertain outsider to a confident fighter rooted in both heritage and adaptation. The antagonist remains unyielding, serving as a contrast. Mr. Han learns to let go, Daniel renews his sense of purpose, Mia gains courage, and Victor reconnects with mentorship. Each of these arcs interlocks to form a story not just about fighting but about change, respect, and the bonds that define growth. Karate Kid's Legends 2025 thrives not only on its story but also on the power of its performances. The cast is diverse, blending established stars with rising talent, and much of the film's impact comes from how these performers bring energy, vulnerability, and authenticity to their roles. Some actors disappear so seamlessly into their characters that it feels impossible to imagine anyone else playing them, while others create moments that shine unexpectedly, even in smaller roles. At the center is Ben Wang as Li Fong. As the protagonist, he carries the emotional weight of the film, and his performance is layered with nuance. At the beginning, he projects quiet restraint, avoiding eye contact, keeping his body language controlled, and delivering lines with hesitancy, which communicates Lee's struggle as an outsider. His growth is visible not only in dialogue but also in physicality. During training sequences, his stances grow more assured, his movements sharper, and his voice firmer. One standout moment is a quiet monologue where he confesses his fear of not belonging. Delivered with measured pauses and a wavering tone, the scene allows the audience to feel the depth of his vulnerability. By the final tournament, Ben Wang's controlled aggression and grounded presence sell the transformation from insecure newcomer to confident martial artist. His performance is both physical and emotional, a balance that holds the film together. Jackie Chan as Mr. Han provides continuity with the earlier franchise entry, and once again disappears into the role of wise mentor. His performance is understated, never seeking to dominate the screen but instead guiding it with calm authority. His timing is impeccable, often letting silence speak louder than dialogue. A simple gesture, such as placing a hand on Lee's shoulder or nodding silently during training, carries weight. Jackie Chan also brings warmth to scenes where humor naturally emerges, showing a softer side that keeps the character human rather than mythic. His chemistry with Ben Wang feels organic, as though master and student share an unspoken trust. Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso adds depth to the film with his quiet, reflective performance. His portrayal is not about flashy delivery but about grounding the story in legacy. His vocal tone is measured, often low and steady, projecting a calm authority. In one key scene, he delivers a speech about balance and responsibility that could have felt heavy-handed, but his sincerity and soft pacing make it resonate. His chemistry with Jackie Chan is another highlight, as both play off each other with mutual respect, creating a believable sense of two mentors with different philosophies who are united in their care for Lee. Joshua Jackson as Victor Lipany is one of the film's surprises. Playing a retired boxer who becomes an ally to Lee, Jackson brings grit and charm. His physicality communicates the wear and tear of a fighter past his prime, yet his voice carries authority when instructing or advising. A standout moment comes when Victor shares a personal story about losing a fight and learning humility. Delivered with raw honesty and restrained emotion, the scene lingers as one of the most human touches in the film. Jackson balances toughness with warmth, making Victor a memorable character despite limited screen time. Sadie Stanley as Mia Lipany brings youthful energy and emotional grounding. She avoids the common trap of playing a supportive friend as one-dimensional. Instead, her performance highlights courage and loyalty. Her line delivery in a scene where she defends Lee against bullies is sharp and filled with conviction, showing strength beyond her years. Chemistry between her and Ben Wang feels natural, with subtle glances and timing that sell their friendship as genuine. She plays a crucial role in keeping Lee emotionally connected to his new environment, and her performance lingers because of its sincerity. Ming-Na Wen as Dr. Fong, Lee's mother, provides gravitas and maternal warmth. She portrays resilience, balancing worry for her son with encouragement. Her vocal choices are deliberate, often soothing yet firm, grounding her presence as a guiding force. A particularly memorable moment occurs when she reassures Lee before the tournament, her delivery layered with both vulnerability and determination. Though her screen time is limited, Ming-Na Wen makes her presence felt through understated emotional power. Among supporting roles, Aramis Knight and Wyatt Olef bring intensity as rivals. Their performances, while not as nuanced as the leads, still contribute tension. Knight plays with aggression, sharp body language, and clipped dialogue, making his character intimidating. Olef leans more into arrogance, delivering lines with mocking inflection that heightens the sense of rivalry. Their work ensures the antagonistic energy is convincing, even if their arcs are less developed. William Zabka makes a brief but effective appearance, and while his role is small, his timing and delivery carry nostalgia. He does not overplay his part but adds weight simply by presence, tying the story to the franchise's history. Not all performances are perfectly balanced. Some minor classmates feel underdeveloped, and their line delivery occasionally feels forced. These weaker moments do not derail the film but highlight the gap between the main cast's strong chemistry and the unevenness of minor roles. Overall, the ensemble succeeds because of the combination of physical commitment and emotional authenticity. The fight choreography works because the actors sell it with conviction, but the film resonates because the performers make each line and gesture meaningful. Ben Wang's transformation is the heart, Jackie Chan's wisdom provides depth, Ralph Macchio anchors legacy, Joshua Jackson adds grit, Sadie Stanley provides heart, and Ming-Na Wen layers it all with maternal strength. Together they turn a martial arts film into a character-driven story where performances elevate every scene. Direction is often the invisible hand that shapes a film's identity, and in Karate Kid's Legends 2025, that hand is both steady and deliberate. The director's vision is clear throughout, steering tone, pacing, and the flow of performances in ways that emphasize emotional growth alongside physical action. The film never feels like it is simply about martial arts. Instead, it is about how martial arts becomes a vehicle for character transformation. This shift is not accidental but the result of directorial decisions that frame every scene with intention. From the opening sequence, the director establishes the world through atmosphere rather than exposition. Instead of lengthy dialogue explaining Li Fong's displacement into a new environment, the camera lingers in long tracking shots of crowded streets, cultural landmarks, and Lee's isolated figure in the middle of it all. These visuals communicate alienation more effectively than words. The choice of long takes allows the audience to absorb his vulnerability, while subtle close-ups on his expressions guide us into his internal world. This early emphasis on observation sets the tone for a film that relies on emotional immersion rather than fast plot progression. The pacing is carefully balanced between meditative calm and bursts of kinetic energy. Training sequences are drawn out with rhythmic editing, almost like breathing, creating a sense of discipline and repetition. Conversely, sparring and tournament scenes are cut more sharply, with abrupt edits heightening intensity and urgency. This duality in pacing reflects the director's intention to portray martial arts not just as spectacle but also as philosophy. The viewer feels the grind of practice as much as the thrill of combat. When it comes to staging, the director demonstrates a keen sense of space. Fight scenes avoid becoming chaotic by grounding choreography in clear visual geography. Wide shots are often used to show the full extent of movement, while occasional close-ups capture the emotional stakes of the fighters. This prevents the martial arts from feeling like disconnected stunts and instead frames each fight as storytelling through movement. In quieter moments, the staging leans toward intimacy, with characters positioned close in frame, their emotions amplified by proximity. The director understands how physical positioning conveys relationships as strongly as dialogue. Actor guidance is another hallmark of the direction. Performers, both seasoned and young, deliver work that feels aligned with the director's vision of balance between subtlety and intensity. Ben Wang's transformation into a confident fighter is not only about his skill but about how he is directed to use posture, silence, and expression to show growth. Jackie Chan's restrained wisdom benefits from pacing that allows him pauses, letting his presence fill the room without needing grand gestures. Ralph Macchio is given quieter scenes where timing and reflection dominate, showing the director's respect for character legacy. Even supporting players are guided to avoid overacting, keeping the overall tone cohesive. Stylistically, the director favors long tracking shots during training sequences, emphasizing repetition and focus, and atmospheric close-ups during emotional confessions, where subtle expressions become the highlight. These stylistic signatures shape the emotional ride by slowing down when it matters and tightening when tension peaks. An example is a pivotal training scene at dusk, where the director holds the camera in a single unbroken shot, watching Lee move through forms as the sun lowers. This choice creates a meditative rhythm that pulls the audience into the discipline of practice. Conversely, in the climactic tournament, the director uses quick cuts between fighters, the crowd, and slow-motion close-ups of decisive moves, blending intensity with spectacle. There are also moments of confident risk-taking. One striking decision involves silencing the soundtrack entirely during a key sparring match, leaving only the sound of breath, footsteps, and fists connecting. The absence of music forces the viewer into the raw immediacy of the fight, making it more immersive than any dramatic score could. Another effective choice is giving supporting characters moments of stillness, allowing their presence to carry meaning without dialogue. These confident directorial touches elevate the film beyond a typical martial arts drama. However, not all choices are flawless. At times, the pacing risks dragging, particularly in the second act where extended training montages, though beautifully shot, begin to feel repetitive. The insistence on lingering camera work, while immersive, occasionally slows momentum to the point of testing patience. A few abrupt tonal shifts also interrupt flow, such as comic relief moments inserted immediately after tense exchanges, which undercut emotional weight. These are not fatal flaws but reminders that even strong direction can stumble when balance is slightly misjudged. Still, the directorial control overall shapes Karate Kid's Legends 2025 into a film with clear identity. The focus on long, meditative visuals paired with bursts of sharp energy makes the story more than just another martial arts installment. It becomes a narrative about discipline, belonging, and emotional resilience. The director's stylistic signatures, long tracking shots, atmospheric close-ups, deliberate pacing, turn the journey into something experiential rather than just watchable. Viewers feel they are not only watching Lee's transformation but sharing in it. Ultimately, Karate Kid's Legends 2025 succeeds because the direction never loses sight of the core theme: growth through struggle. Confident visual storytelling, careful guidance of performances, and stylistic choices that privilege emotion over spectacle create a cohesive film. While a few slower passages may test audience patience, the vision remains steady and purposeful. The director shapes the film into more than entertainment. It becomes a meditation on resilience and the human spirit, ensuring that every choice, whether triumphant or flawed, leaves its mark on the audience. Cinematography in Karate Kid's Legends 2025 is not merely decorative but an essential storytelling tool that brings depth and nuance to the film. The camera does more than record events, it interprets them, guiding our emotional responses through framing, movement, lighting, and color choices. The visual language of the film is deliberately constructed to highlight both the grandeur of martial arts spectacle and the intimacy of personal transformation. One of the most striking aspects of the cinematography is its framing. Wide shots dominate the early scenes, particularly when introducing Li Feng's new environment. We see him dwarfed by expansive cityscapes, crowded classrooms, and unfamiliar cultural backdrops. This wide framing communicates his isolation and vulnerability, making his personal journey toward belonging more powerful. As the story progresses, the camera gradually shifts toward tighter framing, bringing us closer to Lee's world as he gains confidence and a sense of place. By the time he steps into the climactic tournament, the framing often locks onto his face and body in close-ups, emphasizing inner strength and focus rather than external chaos. Movement is also carefully orchestrated. The cinematographer employs smooth tracking shots during training sequences, echoing the repetitive flow of martial arts practice. These gliding movements lend a meditative quality, making the viewer feel part of the discipline. In contrast, fight scenes are often shot with handheld energy or quick pans, creating an immersive sense of tension and unpredictability. The choreography is captured with clarity, avoiding the disorienting blur often seen in modern action films. Instead, each movement feels deliberate, and the camera always respects the physicality of the performers by giving them room to breathe within the frame. Lighting plays an equally crucial role in shaping mood and reflecting character states. During the early struggles of Lee's journey, the lighting is often subdued, with cool tones dominating indoor spaces. Shadows are used to stress his uncertainty and the emotional distance between him and his peers. As Lee begins to integrate into his new world, lighting warms, and natural sunlight becomes more prominent in training montages, suggesting hope and growth. A key example is a dusk training scene, where the fading golden light washes over Lee as he practices alone. The lighting in this sequence visually conveys resilience and the dawning of inner strength more effectively than dialogue could. The climactic tournament scenes take a different approach. Bright, high-contrast lighting illuminates the fighters under the gaze of the crowd, transforming the arena into a stage where personal stakes become public spectacle. Harsh lighting here underscores the unforgiving nature of competition while also spotlighting the clarity of Lee's focus. The use of shadows in the background isolates him from distraction, suggesting a tunnel-vision determination. This contrast between personal introspection and external display is heightened purely through lighting design. Color palettes in Karate Kid's Legends 2025 are also layered with symbolic intent. Early in the film, the palette leans toward muted blues and grays, reinforcing Lee's outsider status. As training progresses, warmer earth tones emerge, particularly in scenes featuring Jackie Chan's mentor character. The earthy palette reflects the grounding philosophy of martial arts, a return to simplicity and balance. In moments of conflict or setback, the palette sharpens to colder hues, reflecting doubt and tension. By the finale, the film bursts into a palette of vibrant reds and golds, signaling both the danger and glory of the final fight. These shifting palettes provide a visual roadmap of Lee's emotional arc. Standout shots are plentiful, and several remain imprinted long after the credits roll. A slow-motion shot of Lee blocking his opponent's strike during the final match, lit with a spotlight against the darker crowd, stands out as a visual metaphor for resilience shining in adversity. Another unforgettable moment comes when Ralph Macchio's character delivers a lesson to Lee, framed in a wide shot beneath a sprawling tree. The contrast of human figures against nature conveys wisdom passed through generations, reminding the audience of the film's intergenerational themes. The balance of wide versus tight framing deserves special mention. Wide shots emphasize the scale of the martial arts tradition, capturing not only the fighters but also the environment that shapes them. These shots make the audience aware that the characters' journeys are part of something larger than themselves. On the other hand, tight framing is employed for moments of vulnerability and growth, particularly when Lee interacts with his mentor or peers. The subtle transition from wide to tight framing mirrors his journey from feeling lost in the world to carving out a defined place within it. What makes the cinematography especially effective is that it consistently works in harmony with narrative beats. It never feels like visual flair for its own sake. Instead, each decision in framing, movement, color, and lighting is designed to deepen the audience's understanding of character and theme. Scenes are visually composed to carry emotional weight beyond the dialogue. For instance, the director of photography frequently uses reflective surfaces like mirrors and windows to underscore Lee's internal struggles with identity. These choices give the audience more than one way to interpret his growth, visually as well as through story. In sum, the cinematography of Karate Kid's Legends 2025 elevates the film into something more than a martial arts drama. Through careful framing, thoughtful movement, purposeful lighting, and symbolic color palettes, the camera becomes a storyteller in its own right. The imagery guides the viewer through Lee's journey with both grandeur and intimacy, ensuring that certain shots linger in memory long after the film ends. This is a case where cinematography is not background decoration but the very backbone of how the story is told, and it ensures that the visual language remains as resonant as the narrative itself. Editing is one of the most invisible but crucial aspects of storytelling, and in Karate Kid's Legends 2025 it works as both an accelerator of action and a sculptor of emotion. The rhythm of the film is shaped by how it is cut, when scenes are allowed to breathe, and when they are propelled forward. The editing choices influence not only how the story unfolds but also how the audience feels during each moment. By balancing smooth transitions, well-structured montages, and bursts of rapid energy, the editing ensures the narrative flows without losing its emotional weight. The opening act establishes its rhythm with patience. Transitions are smooth and unhurried, often letting the camera linger on Li Feng's isolation before moving into the next scene. The editing here favors long takes and dissolves rather than sharp cuts, creating an atmosphere of disorientation that mirrors Lee's struggle to adapt to his new life. The decision to allow these early moments to stretch out means the audience feels his loneliness and alienation instead of being rushed past it. This is a clear example of editing trusting silence and restraint to build character context. As the training begins, the pacing gradually shifts. Montages take over, a classic element of martial arts films, and they are used effectively here to condense time without losing the sense of repetition and effort required. The editor structures these montages with rhythmic precision. Each cut matches the tempo of Lee's movements, the thud of strikes, or the rhythm of his breathing. These sequences propel momentum while also embedding the discipline of martial arts in the film's very rhythm. They feel motivating rather than perfunctory because the editing gives each stage of Lee's growth its own space rather than lumping everything into a single sequence. Cross-cutting is deployed during moments of heightened tension, especially when the narrative involves multiple characters preparing for the climactic tournament. The editor alternates between Lee's training, the mentor's reflective moments, and glimpses of the antagonist's preparation. This parallel structure builds suspense by drawing lines between the characters' emotional and physical states. Instead of confusing the audience, the cross-cutting enhances anticipation, showing how all story threads converge toward a single collision point. Flashbacks are used sparingly, which works to the film's advantage. When Lee recalls fragments of his past, the edits are slightly more disjointed, with sharper cuts and dimmer lighting that mark them as subjective memories. These are not overused but strategically placed to underline moments of doubt or motivation. For example, just before a key sparring session, the sudden insertion of a flashback to Lee's earlier failures creates a jolt of vulnerability that deepens our investment in his success. The editing here trusts the audience to piece together meaning rather than spelling it out. The pacing of the second act is where the editing faces its biggest challenge. Training sequences, while beautifully shot, occasionally linger longer than necessary, creating stretches where momentum slows. These are the moments where a tighter rhythm could have maintained narrative energy without sacrificing atmosphere. For viewers attuned to fast-moving stories, these lulls may feel like the film drags. However, for those willing to sink into the deliberate pacing, they serve as reflective pauses that mirror the discipline of practice itself. The climactic tournament showcases the editor's skill at balancing chaos and clarity. Rapid-fire cutting is employed to heighten intensity, but it never descends into incoherence. Each strike, block, and reaction is given just enough time for the audience to register its impact. Slow-motion inserts are sprinkled sparingly, reserved for decisive moves that carry emotional or narrative weight. This restraint makes those slow-motion beats feel earned rather than overused. The rhythm of the cuts during the final fight mirrors a heartbeat, fast, tense, then briefly slowing in moments of stillness before surging again. This editing rhythm amplifies emotion and transforms the tournament into not just a physical battle but also a psychological one. Transitions between acts are generally smooth, often guided by thematic echoes. For instance, a training sequence might end with Lee falling to the ground, and the next scene cuts to him lying in bed, exhausted. These match cuts create continuity and prevent the story from feeling disjointed. At other times, abrupt cuts are used intentionally to jar the audience, particularly after moments of triumph that are undercut by sudden setbacks. These choices demonstrate a thoughtful balance of smoothness and sharpness depending on narrative needs. Silence is another tool the editing respects. Some of the most powerful moments are those where the cuts slow down and the soundtrack drops out, leaving only the sound of breath or footsteps. These pauses give the audience space to reflect and heighten the emotional weight of what follows. By not filling every moment with action or sound, the editing acknowledges that absence can be as impactful as presence. If there is one consistent critique, it is that the editor occasionally prioritizes atmosphere at the expense of drive. A few sequences in the middle act could have benefited from trimming to keep tension building more consistently. Still, the overall structure ensures the film never loses its trajectory. The rhythm across acts remains coherent, with a clear acceleration toward the finale. In conclusion, the editing and pacing of Karate Kid's Legends 2025 are carefully crafted to guide the audience through an emotional and physical journey. From the smooth patience of the opening, to the rhythmic drive of training montages, to the rapid precision of the final tournament, the film's editing acts as both a heartbeat and a compass. It amplifies emotion at key moments, uses restraint when silence speaks louder than words, and ensures that time itself feels like part of the story. Even when pacing risks slowing, the overall rhythm reflects the philosophy of martial arts: discipline, balance, and bursts of decisive action. Music in Karate Kid's Legends 2025 is more than background. It acts as an emotional guide, almost a character in its own right. The score and soundtrack elevate scenes by reinforcing themes of struggle, resilience, and triumph. Through carefully chosen motifs, bursts of licensed tracks, and even strategic silences, the film uses sound to shape how audiences feel about the story and its characters. What could have been a straightforward martial arts narrative becomes layered and memorable because of these sonic choices. The score is built around recurring motifs that attach themselves to specific characters and ideas. Li Feng's theme begins as a soft, hesitant melody played on a single instrument, often a flute or piano, to emphasize his isolation and uncertainty. As the story progresses, the same melody grows fuller, layered with strings and percussion, reflecting his increasing confidence and mastery of martial arts. By the finale, this motif swells into a triumphant arrangement, tying his emotional journey directly to the music. Without this evolving theme, the audience might feel his growth intellectually, but with it, they experience it viscerally. The mentor character, played by Jackie Chan, has a contrasting musical motif. His cues are often underscored with traditional instruments and steady rhythms, evoking wisdom, heritage, and a sense of grounded philosophy. This theme rarely changes, symbolizing stability in contrast to Li's fluctuating journey. Each time it appears, it serves as a reminder of the enduring values of discipline and patience. When these two motifs overlap during key training sequences, the score suggests the merging of teacher and student, reinforcing the bond between them without the need for explicit dialogue. Licensed music is used sparingly but with impact. Contemporary tracks surface during moments where Li interacts with peers or tries to fit into a modern social environment. These cues ground the story in the present day and create a relatable bridge for younger audiences. A particularly effective use comes during a scene where Li struggles socially at school. The upbeat, energetic track playing in the background contrasts with his discomfort, highlighting his sense of disconnection. Later, during a group bonding scene, a licensed song plays that matches the character's joy, showing that music not only reflects Li's emotions but also the world he is trying to be part of. Silence is another crucial component of the sound design. During certain sparring sequences, the score drops away entirely, leaving only the sound of breathing, footsteps, and strikes. This absence of music sharpens focus, creating intensity that no dramatic score could match. The viewer becomes acutely aware of every movement, as if sharing the character's heightened concentration. The silence is not empty but filled with tension, making the return of music afterward feel like a release. This technique is especially effective in the climactic fight, where silence precedes the final decisive move before the score erupts in full orchestration. The pacing of the score mirrors the editing and narrative structure. Early scenes feature longer, drawn-out musical phrases that reflect uncertainty and introspection. As the film enters its training phase, the score becomes more rhythmic and structured, echoing the discipline of martial arts. By the final act, the music is faster, sharper, and layered with percussion, matching the urgency of the tournament. This careful alignment between score and pacing ensures the audience feels time passing not only through visuals but through sound. There are moments where the score risks overplaying its hand. Emotional scenes, such as Li reflecting on his past, occasionally lean too heavily on swelling strings that dictate exactly how the audience should feel. While effective for many viewers, these cues might feel manipulative to those who prefer subtlety. However, these moments are balanced by other sequences where restraint is exercised, allowing the performances and visuals to carry the weight. On the other hand, there are moments where the score achieves near perfection. One such scene occurs during a dusk training session where Li practices alone. The score begins with minimal notes, almost indistinguishable from the natural sounds of the environment, before slowly building as his movements gain confidence. By the time the sequence ends, the music has grown into a full-bodied piece that perfectly matches his emotional state. It is a clear example of how music can transform a good scene into something unforgettable. Another highlight is the climactic tournament. The editor and composer work seamlessly together, with the score rising and falling in rhythm with Li's progress. During moments of setback, the music quiets, almost retreating, before surging back as he regains his footing. When Li delivers the final blow, the score erupts in a triumphant crescendo, echoing his personal victory as much as his physical success. The synchronization between action and score in this sequence creates a collective release of tension that lingers with the audience. In conclusion, the soundtrack and score of Karate Kid's Legends 2025 are essential to the film's identity. Recurring motifs track character growth, licensed tracks ground the story in contemporary culture, and silence creates moments of raw intensity. While there are instances where the score leans too heavily into sentiment, the majority of the musical choices are thoughtful, purposeful, and impactful. Music here is not an accessory but a guiding force, shaping how the audience experiences every emotional beat of the story. The best cues elevate scenes from effective to unforgettable, ensuring that when viewers leave the theater, they carry not just images of the film but the sound of its spirit resonating in their minds. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, may present itself as a high-energy martial arts drama on the surface, but beneath the punches and training montages lies a story layered with themes that give the narrative emotional weight. At its heart, the film wrestles with identity, legacy, redemption, discipline, and the ongoing tension between fear and courage. These themes echo the legacy of the original Karate Kid films while expanding into new territory, offering younger audiences a story of self-discovery while also speaking to older viewers who have grown up with the franchise. The most dominant theme is identity. The film explores how young martial artists discover who they are beyond the dojo, beyond their mentors, and beyond their family expectations. For the new generation of characters, identity is not just about skill with karate but about defining their values. The film repeatedly uses moments of stillness and reflection, often after intense training or battles, to show characters questioning themselves. A young fighter wonders whether winning tournaments defines them, or whether true identity lies in how they carry themselves outside of the fight. This theme is especially powerful in scenes where older mentors reflect on their own youth and mistakes, passing wisdom to prevent the cycle of confusion from repeating. Redemption also pulses strongly through the film. Several characters, particularly those tied to past rivalries, are haunted by decisions made long ago. They seek second chances to right their wrongs or to prove that they have grown since their days of youthful arrogance. These arcs provide some of the most emotional beats in the film, reminding audiences that growth is not just for the young. Redemption becomes a multi-generational theme, where older characters try to heal old wounds while younger ones fight not to make the same mistakes. The cycle of power and responsibility is another theme, shown not just through who holds physical strength but how they choose to use it. The film critiques the abuse of power by contrasting characters who view karate as a weapon for dominance with those who see it as a discipline for balance and respect. The tournament sequences highlight this contrast, as fights are staged to show when aggression crosses into recklessness and when calm mastery reveals true control. The underlying message is that strength without wisdom leads to downfall, while strength guided by humility creates leaders. Fear and courage intertwine as yet another core theme. Several characters wrestle with inner fears, whether it be fear of failure, fear of repeating past mistakes, or fear of facing stronger opponents. The story demonstrates how fear can paralyze but also how acknowledging fear is the first step toward courage. Some of the most powerful sequences come not in battle but in preparation, where characters stand on the brink of their challenges and must decide whether to step forward. This universal theme resonates with audiences, reminding them that courage is not the absence of fear but the will to act in spite of it. Love and loyalty quietly shape the story as well. Whether through family bonds, friendships, or mentor-student relationships, the film emphasizes how love provides strength during moments of doubt. When characters falter, it is often the encouragement of those they care about that propels them back onto their path. These emotional ties add warmth to the film, ensuring that it is not only about fighting but also about human connection. Importantly, Karate Kid's Legends communicates many of these themes visually rather than relying heavily on dialogue. Training montages, for example, are less about showing physical improvement and more about visually representing resilience and determination. Flashbacks highlight emotional scars more than they do plot mechanics, reminding viewers of the weight of past choices. Even silence is used effectively, as characters sometimes sit with their thoughts instead of voicing them, allowing the audience to feel the burden of unspoken struggles. At times, however, the thematic delivery can feel uneven. Some subplots push their messages clearly and powerfully, while others are more muddled. For instance, the theme of legacy occasionally risks overshadowing the younger characters, as the weight of the past looms so heavily that it threatens to stifle fresh perspectives. Yet this tension also adds richness, creating space for debate among viewers about whether the film is primarily about honoring the past or about carving a new path forward. Ultimately, Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, is not just about martial arts victories but about inner battles, finding identity, overcoming fear, seeking redemption, and understanding the true meaning of power. These themes intertwine seamlessly with the action, ensuring that the fights matter because they are rooted in personal stakes. The film invites audiences to look beyond the surface and consider the deeper questions it raises. Who am I? What do I stand for? Can I grow beyond my past? By weaving these messages into its story, the film continues the legacy of the Karate Kid franchise while also refreshing it for a modern generation. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, is largely grounded in the martial arts drama tradition, so its reliance on visual effects and CGI is not as heavy as one would expect from a typical blockbuster filled with supernatural elements or science fiction spectacle. However, the film does make use of VFX in key sequences to enhance atmosphere, emphasize intensity in combat, and elevate certain moments beyond what practical effects alone could achieve. The question, then, is whether these effects feel like natural extensions of the story or distracting flourishes that pull the viewer out of the experience. The most noticeable use of VFX comes in the tournament and training sequences, where enhanced lighting, slow-motion particle effects, and subtle digital augmentation heighten the impact of strikes and movements. For instance, during a climactic match, dust and sweat particles are digitally accentuated as fighters clash, adding a cinematic punch that makes every hit feel heavier. These touches are not flashy but carefully measured, aiming to make the physical action more visceral without breaking the realistic tone of the film. Another area where CGI is deployed is in recreating environments. Several scenes set in exotic training locations use digital extensions to make landscapes feel larger and more striking. Mountains, temples, and city backdrops are subtly enhanced with CGI, giving the story an epic scope while keeping the characters grounded in practical sets. This blending of digital and physical environments is largely seamless, allowing audiences to immerse themselves in the setting without constantly noticing the technology at work. The compositing here is handled with restraint, which is a strength because it preserves the authenticity of the martial arts world. Flashback sequences also rely on VFX to distinguish them from the main timeline. Color grading, haze effects, and digital overlays create a dreamlike texture, visually signaling that the audience is stepping into memory. These effects are understated but effective, providing a clear contrast without overwhelming the narrative. It is in these moments that the CGI feels most purposeful, directly supporting storytelling rather than aiming for spectacle. That said, there are moments where the digital work becomes more noticeable, particularly in heightened combat scenes where the filmmakers attempt to stylize the action. In some instances, the use of exaggerated motion blur or artificially sped-up movements creates a slightly jittery effect that risks pulling the audience out of the fight. While these choices aim to intensify the choreography, they sometimes feel at odds with the grounded, disciplined style of martial arts that the series is known for. For viewers attuned to raw authenticity, these effects may feel like unnecessary embellishments. The film also experiments with visual flourishes in moments of inner conflict, where CGI is used metaphorically rather than literally. For example, a character facing fear may see the environment darken slightly or notice subtle distortions in the air around them, representing their psychological struggle. These choices walk a fine line. On one hand, they add depth to the storytelling by externalizing emotions. On the other hand, if pushed too far, they risk distracting from the grounded drama. In Karate Kid's Legends, these effects are mostly restrained, though there are a few instances where the symbolism edges toward heavy-handed. Compared to practical effects, which dominate the fight choreography, CGI plays a supportive role. The most impressive sequences are those where practical stunt work is front and center, with VFX only polishing the edges. For instance, wirework and real physical stunts give authenticity to training montages, while CGI enhances backgrounds or adds subtle flourishes to emphasize impact. This balance ensures that the film never loses the raw, physical energy that defines martial arts cinema. Overall, the visual effects in Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, are functional and purposeful rather than flashy or groundbreaking. They are used to enhance mood, amplify the emotional stakes of fights, and create a sense of scale in environments, without overshadowing the practical performances of the actors and stunt teams. At their best, the effects blend invisibly into the storytelling, such as in the sweeping landscapes and emotionally charged flashbacks. At their weakest, they draw attention to themselves in stylized combat moments that momentarily break immersion. Still, the filmmakers show restraint compared to many modern blockbusters, ensuring that CGI serves as a tool to support the narrative rather than a spectacle on its own. The set design and location choices in Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, play a major role in shaping the film's atmosphere and giving weight to its characters' journeys. Unlike purely stylized productions that rely heavily on constructed sets, this film strikes a balance between real-world locations and carefully designed studio builds, blending the authenticity of lived-in environments with a controlled artistry of production design. The result is a world that feels both cinematic and believable, allowing the story to exist in a space that audiences can connect with emotionally and visually. The film's production design leans heavily into contrasts. Early scenes focus on urban neighborhoods, cramped apartments, and modest training halls that ground the younger characters' lives in realism. These spaces are deliberately designed with details that imply struggle, discipline, and history. A cracked wall in a student's home, worn mats in a dojo, or an old poster of past martial arts champions in the background are not just decorative elements, they carry meaning. These subtle design touches communicate the economic and cultural conditions of the characters without needing to spell them out through dialogue. They remind viewers that martial arts is not just about competition but about survival, growth, and heritage. When the film shifts to more expansive settings, the contrast in design is striking. Training sequences in rural or exotic locations take advantage of sweeping landscapes, open-air dojos, and natural environments like forests and mountains. These locations serve both a narrative and symbolic purpose. The openness of the environment contrasts with the confined urban spaces, visually representing the characters' growth as they break away from old limitations and step into new challenges. Mountains symbolize endurance, rivers reflect flow and adaptability, and temples stand for wisdom and tradition. The choice of these natural settings emphasizes the spiritual and philosophical aspects of martial arts, reminding audiences that it is more than physical combat, it is a way of life. Studio builds also play a crucial role, particularly in controlled environments like the central tournament arena. Here, production designers create a space that feels grand yet intimate. The arena is designed to highlight the tension between individual fighters and the crowd, with lighting, banners, and structural details reinforcing the gravity of the competition. Props such as scoreboards, traditional flags, and symbolic emblems add texture and cultural authenticity, giving the sense that this tournament has a long history and is part of a broader tradition. One of the strengths of the set design is its attention to detail in creating lived-in spaces. A mentor's training hall is not a pristine, modern gym but a place layered with history. Weapons mounted on walls, old wooden beams, and simple mats communicate decades of practice and discipline. Even a cluttered desk with old manuals or a shrine with incense and candles deepens the authenticity. These small touches add believability and texture, making the world feel inhabited and real. The filmmakers also use location choices to support character development. For example, a student struggling with self-doubt is often shown in confined, dimly lit spaces that emphasize their internal conflict, while moments of triumph and growth are staged in wide, open landscapes where the characters feel small against the vastness of nature yet empowered within it. This interplay of set design and emotional arcs shows a thoughtful approach to how environments mirror the inner states of the characters. Props are equally important in reinforcing identity and theme. From training equipment like wooden dummies, ropes, and hand-carved staffs to symbolic items like heirloom belts or family keepsakes, each object tells a story. These props are not flashy but purposeful, serving as physical extensions of character and culture. For example, an old belt passed from mentor to student is not only a training tool but also a visual representation of legacy and continuity. Overall, the production design of Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, excels in creating spaces that are authentic, atmospheric, and deeply tied to the narrative. The smart use of real locations gives the film a sense of scope and grounding, while the carefully constructed sets provide focus and control where needed. Every location and design choice contributes to mood, whether it is the tension of a crowded apartment, the serenity of a mountain temple, or the electrifying energy of a tournament stage. These details help actors inhabit their reality fully, giving performances a physical and emotional anchor. The film's sets and locations are not just backgrounds but active participants in storytelling, shaping how audiences perceive character journeys and thematic undercurrents. The dialogue and script of Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, play a central role in shaping not only the flow of the story but also the way audiences connect with its characters. In a film built on martial arts traditions, generational conflict, and themes of redemption, words carry as much weight as fists. The screenplay is tasked with balancing action-driven spectacle and emotionally resonant exchanges, a difficult balance that determines whether the film feels heartfelt or formulaic. What stands out is the script's attempt to walk a fine line between straightforward, audience-friendly storytelling and layered, character-driven writing that carries subtext and nuance. One of the film's greatest strengths is how dialogue is used to define relationships, particularly between mentor and student. The exchanges between Jackie Chan's character Mr. Han and Ralph Macchio's Daniel LaRusso are often restrained, with sentences short and weighted by meaning. Instead of long monologues, wisdom comes in clipped observations or reflective pauses. For example, When a student expresses doubt, the mentor does not respond with a lecture but with a simple line that both challenges and reassures, leaving room for interpretation. This economy of words creates space for subtext, allowing the audience to feel the emotional weight without being spoon-fed the meaning. It is this restraint that makes the dialogue feel authentic and natural. At the same time, the script knows when to lean into more direct, emotionally heightened lines. The central conflicts between students in the dojo often feature sharper, on-the-nose dialogue, but it works within the context of youthful bravado and rivalry. Challenges, taunts, and declarations of intent may not be subtle, but they mirror the reality of competitive teenagers whose words are often blunt weapons. These moments drive the plot forward and add to the intensity of the rivalries. The script smartly contrasts the bluntness of the younger characters with the calm wisdom of the older mentors, highlighting generational differences in how conflict is approached. The dialogue also weaves in themes of identity, legacy, and perseverance. A recurring motif in the script is the idea of balance, not only in martial arts but in life itself. Instead of hammering this theme repeatedly in expository lines, the script introduces it subtly in different conversations across the film. A mentor may speak of balance in physical training, while another scene shows balance discussed in the context of relationships or emotions. This layered approach makes the theme feel organic and pervasive rather than forced. Moments of silence also stand out as deliberate script choices. In scenes of high emotional intensity, particularly when characters deal with loss, fear, or revelation, the absence of dialogue communicates more than words could. For instance, a scene in which a young fighter silently prepares for a match, exchanging a look with his mentor, conveys volumes about trust and unspoken understanding. The script respects these moments by not over-explaining, trusting the actors and the audience to fill in the emotional gaps. These silences are among the most powerful elements of the screenplay, elevating its emotional depth. However, the script is not without weaknesses. There are moments when conversations feel padded, where characters explain things already made clear through visuals or earlier dialogue. These instances of redundancy slightly drag pacing and risk pulling viewers out of immersion. While exposition is necessary in a film introducing new characters alongside returning ones, some exchanges could have been trimmed or restructured to maintain sharper focus. A leaner edit of dialogue would have preserved the overall intensity while avoiding repetition. Another area where the script sometimes falters is in its attempt to balance humor and drama. While light moments are necessary to relieve tension, a few jokes feel out of sync with the tone, undercutting serious scenes. For example, comic relief side characters occasionally deliver lines that, while entertaining, slightly jar with the otherwise grounded narrative. This tonal inconsistency is not pervasive but noticeable, and a rewrite could have smoothed these transitions. On the positive side, the script demonstrates a keen awareness of character arcs. Dialogue evolves as characters grow, with early lines often reflecting insecurity or arrogance and later lines showing humility or clarity. For instance, a character who once dismissed the philosophy of martial arts later adopts its language, signaling transformation without needing lengthy explanation. These subtle shifts in dialogue reinforce growth and ensure that character development feels authentic. Ultimately, the script of Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, succeeds in giving voice to its characters while reinforcing the film's themes. It offers sharp, memorable lines that resonate, meaningful silences that deepen emotion, and exchanges that double as engines for both plot and character. Where it falters, it is usually in moments of redundancy or tonal imbalance, but these do not overshadow its strengths. The screenplay understands the legacy it carries and strives to honor it through dialogue that blends wisdom, authenticity, and emotional clarity. By balancing directness with subtext, the film ensures that its words are as impactful as its action, leaving audiences with lines and moments that linger long after the credits roll. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, firmly positions itself within the action-drama genre while drawing on the inspirational sports film tradition established by the original Karate Kid franchise. At the same time, it attempts to modernize its appeal by weaving in elements of emotional drama, coming-of-age storytelling, and cultural exploration. The question of genre execution rests on whether the film delivers the adrenaline and excitement expected from martial arts cinema while also offering the heart, lessons, and emotional resonance that made the earlier installments memorable. In this respect, the film largely succeeds, though it does lean on familiar tropes that some may view as predictable while others embrace them as nostalgic callbacks. From an action perspective, the film hits classic beats expected of martial arts cinema. Training montages, one-on-one sparring, and climactic tournament battles all appear and are staged with a balance of authenticity and cinematic flair. Fans of the genre expect to see characters pushed to their limits through rigorous training, and the movie delivers this with sequences that combine practical stunt work with carefully measured visual flourishes. The fighting choreography is sharp, grounded, and disciplined, honoring the martial arts tradition by prioritizing realism over flashy spectacle. This choice reflects a deliberate genre decision. Rather than lean into wire-fu fantasy or exaggerated action, the film stays rooted in physicality and discipline, staying true to martial arts drama conventions. At the same time, Karate Kid's Legends executes the emotional drama aspect of the genre with equal commitment. Viewers expect a martial arts film to carry lessons about respect, perseverance, and self-discovery, and this installment honors those expectations. Themes of mentorship, legacy, and the clash between tradition and modernity are threaded throughout, ensuring that the story is not just about who wins a fight but about what the journey teaches the fighters about themselves. The script gives weight to the relationships between mentors and students, rivals and allies, and parents and children, reinforcing the dramatic core of the genre. Fans of the franchise will recognize this as a continuation of the balance between physical battles and personal growth. The film also embraces the sports drama structure that audiences expect, an underdog figure facing seemingly insurmountable odds, setbacks that test perseverance, and an eventual climactic showdown. These beats are genre staples, and the film does not shy away from them. Instead, it leans into them with confidence, knowing that the appeal lies not in reinventing the wheel but in how these beats are executed with fresh characters and stakes. The underdog journey remains one of the most enduring tropes in cinema because it resonates universally, and Karate Kid's Legends delivers this journey in a way that feels both familiar and engaging. However, the film does avoid certain clichés that could have made it feel overly formulaic. For instance, while rivalries and antagonistic figures play a large role, the movie resists making villains one-dimensional caricatures. Antagonists are given motives and backstories that explain their behavior, adding depth and avoiding the trap of reducing them to simple bullies. This choice refreshes the genre by giving audiences more layered conflicts, where victories and defeats carry emotional complexity rather than simple good versus evil outcomes. Another area where the film innovates is in its exploration of cultural intersections. Martial arts films often rely on themes of tradition versus modernity, and Karate Kid's Legends continues this but with an updated lens. By bringing together characters from different backgrounds and exploring how martial arts philosophy adapts in contemporary settings, the film adds a dimension of cross-cultural dialogue. This is not entirely new to the franchise, but the execution feels timely and relevant in 2025, offering audiences a story that acknowledges global perspectives while staying grounded in martial arts tradition. Despite these strengths, the film does at times lean heavily on nostalgia. Familiar lines, callbacks to past characters, and mirrored sequences from earlier Karate Kid films are sprinkled throughout, which will delight longtime fans but may feel predictable to others. These moments function as genre anchors, reassuring audiences that the movie respects its roots, but they also risk alienating viewers who crave more innovation. Whether this reliance on nostalgia feels like a strength or a limitation will depend on the audience's expectations. Those seeking comfort in tradition will be satisfied, while those wanting a bold reimagining may find it too safe. In terms of hybridization, the film is primarily action drama with sports and coming-of-age influences, and it does not stray far into other genres. There are no horror or fantasy elements, nor does it try to reinvent itself as something radically new. Its hybrid quality comes from the mix of emotional drama with martial arts action, a blend that is both expected and effective. What keeps it engaging is the careful execution of tone, balancing high-energy fight sequences with quieter, reflective moments that give meaning to the action. Overall, Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, honors the expectations of its genre while adding just enough freshness to feel relevant. It nails the classic beats of training, mentorship, rivalry, and climactic victory, avoids certain clichés like one-dimensional antagonists, and enriches the narrative with cultural and emotional depth. While it does lean heavily on nostalgia and familiar tropes, it executes them with enough conviction and polish to satisfy fans. In terms of genre execution, it is not a reinvention but a reaffirmation of why martial arts dramas continue to resonate. The combination of physical struggle, emotional growth, and universal themes of perseverance and identity. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, does not present itself as an overtly political or social film, but beneath its martial arts narrative and coming-of-age structure, it carries a layer of cultural and social commentary that reflects both the legacy of the Karate Kid franchise and the contemporary world in which it was made. The film speaks to generational divides, cultural exchange, identity struggles, and the search for belonging, all of which give it relevance beyond the surface story of training and tournaments. The question is not whether the film has something to say, but how effectively it says it, and whether its commentary deepens the narrative or risks oversimplification. One of the clearest areas of cultural commentary lies in its treatment of tradition versus modernity. This has always been a theme in martial arts films, but Karate Kid's Legends updates it for a 2025 audience. On one side, characters emphasize discipline, heritage, and respect for ancient martial practices, while others approach martial arts as competition, spectacle, or a means to fame. This clash mirrors contemporary tensions between preserving cultural traditions and adapting them for a globalized, commercialized world. The film largely treats this conflict with sensitivity, showing the value of both discipline and adaptation, though it leans toward reinforcing traditional values as the foundation of true growth. In doing so, it communicates respect for cultural roots while acknowledging the modern pressures young people face. The film also carries social commentary through its depiction of mentorship and intergenerational dialogue. Older mentors like Mr. Han and Daniel LaRusso embody patience, resilience, and the wisdom of experience, while younger characters embody impatience, ambition, and the pressures of proving themselves quickly. This generational dynamic reflects broader social conversations about how wisdom is passed down in an age where younger generations often feel disconnected from tradition. The film suggests that mentorship remains a powerful force for grounding individuals, a message that feels particularly resonant in a world where cultural continuity is often challenged by rapid technological and societal change. Cultural exchange is another theme embedded in the film's structure. The franchise has always been about characters crossing cultural boundaries and learning from one another, and this installment continues that tradition. The characters come from diverse backgrounds, and their interactions highlight both the challenges and rewards of cross-cultural dialogue. Martial arts becomes the common ground through which they connect, learn respect, and overcome prejudice. This message of unity is powerful, though at times the film simplifies the complexities of cultural differences, presenting martial arts as an almost magical solution to deep-rooted misunderstandings. While inspiring, this risks reducing nuanced issues of identity and culture into tidy resolutions. Social pressures on youth are also reflected in the film, particularly in how young fighters deal with expectations from family, community, and peers. Characters wrestle with the burden of legacy, the desire to prove themselves, and the fear of failure. These struggles resonate strongly in contemporary society, where young people often face similar pressures in academic, athletic, or career paths. The film acknowledges these pressures without delving too deeply into systemic causes, but by dramatizing them through its characters, it offers a relatable commentary on how identity is shaped in competitive environments. In terms of gender and representation, Karate Kid's Legends makes efforts to present a more balanced view than earlier films in the franchise. Female characters are given more agency, participating not only as side figures but as active fighters and mentors. This choice reflects evolving cultural conversations about representation in action films, particularly in martial arts stories historically dominated by male figures. While this progress is commendable, some critics may feel that the film still stops short of fully fleshing out its female characters, giving them strong moments without consistently sustaining their depth throughout the narrative. One area where the film's cultural commentary may feel less developed is in its treatment of broader social issues. While it touches on themes of discipline, identity, and cultural respect, it largely avoids tackling systemic or political themes such as inequality, commercialization of sports, or cultural appropriation. This avoidance is not necessarily a flaw. After all, the film is primarily designed as an action drama, but it does mean that its commentary feels safe rather than provocative. The film opts for universal themes over controversial ones, which ensures accessibility to a wide audience but limits its potential for deeper critique. The timeliness of its themes, however, is undeniable. In an era where questions of heritage, belonging, and generational tension are front and center, Karate Kid's Legends taps into these issues in ways that feel relevant without being heavy-handed. Its messages about resilience, respect, and unity are delivered in a way that broad audiences can appreciate, though more discerning viewers may wish for greater nuance. The commentary is not tone-deaf, it is handled respectfully and with care, but it occasionally leans towards simplification, presenting complex issues through the lens of inspirational storytelling. Ultimately, the social and cultural commentary of Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, enhances the film by giving emotional depth to its action-driven narrative. It uses martial arts as both metaphor and practice to explore questions of identity, discipline, and respect across generations and cultures. While it does not challenge viewers with difficult or controversial political questions, it provides a framework of values and reflections that feel meaningful in today's world. Its commentary may not revolutionize the way audiences think about society, but it reinforces timeless lessons with sincerity, and in doing so, it ensures that the film resonates beyond its punches and kicks. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, is structured to engage audiences on multiple emotional and intellectual levels, balancing adrenaline-fueled action with heart-driven storytelling. One of the film's primary strengths is its ability to create moments that resonate long after the credits roll, whether through suspense, humor, emotional weight, or thematic depth. The filmmakers clearly designed sequences with audience engagement in mind, crafting beats that are memorable, shareable, and capable of sparking discussion among fans. The opening sequences immediately set the tone, establishing both the stakes and the personalities of key characters. Early training scenes, which mix humor with discipline, serve as both exposition and engagement hooks. Viewers are likely to smile at the awkward missteps of young fighters, laugh at well-timed quips, and feel tension as the mentors push them beyond perceived limits. These sequences work because they combine relatability with spectacle. Audiences recognize the struggle of learning something difficult while also enjoying the visual flair of martial arts choreography. The film rewards close attention in these early moments, as small details such as a character's determination in practice foreshadow later triumphs, encouraging repeat viewing. One of the standout types of engagement comes from suspenseful tournament sequences. These high-stakes matches are staged to make audiences physically react, gasp at a sudden reversal, cheer at a clever maneuver, and bite their nails during cliffhanger moments. The editing, combined with sound design and careful camera placement, amplifies tension without overwhelming viewers. Certain moves, when executed perfectly, are likely to become iconic gifs or social media highlights because of their visual clarity and emotional payoff. These moments are deliberately constructed to be shareable while also advancing character development, reinforcing why victories and losses matter beyond spectacle. The film also leverages emotional resonance to engage viewers. Scenes that explore mentorship, personal growth, and redemption are likely to provoke tears or at least quiet reflection. For example, a quiet moment where a mentor silently acknowledges a student's progress or a flashback revealing a character's past hardship can evoke strong empathy. These emotional beats are carefully spaced to balance the high-energy action sequences, ensuring that audiences remain invested in character arcs as much as in the fights themselves. Subtle gestures, meaningful looks, and the unspoken bond between characters are designed to linger in memory, encouraging discussion about motivations, growth, and the implications for future narratives. Humor is another key engagement tool. The film includes light-hearted moments, often arising from interactions between younger fighters or between a novice and a seasoned mentor. These comedic beats provide relief from tension, make characters more relatable, and create quotable lines that fans are likely to repeat or share. Humor is integrated thoughtfully, enhancing engagement without undercutting dramatic or action-oriented scenes. Viewers who catch these small interactions may notice foreshadowing or character traits, making rewatching rewarding. Thematic and moral beats also encourage audience reflection and debate. Questions about identity, the use of power, and the meaning of victory are woven into the narrative, prompting viewers to discuss the character's choices. For instance, a scene where a character hesitates before a decisive move sparks discussion about courage, ethics, and personal growth. These moments are deliberately open-ended, inviting viewers to analyze motivations and potential outcomes. They are likely to generate fan theories, online discussions, and deeper engagement, extending the film's life beyond the theater. Visually striking sequences contribute as well. Wide landscape shots during training or decisive moments, slow-motion impacts, and choreographed fight sequences create a cinematic beauty that rewards repeat viewing. Fans may notice small details, such as a character's subtle posture change or environmental cues, that enhance appreciation of choreography and storytelling. These moments are designed to be revisited, encouraging audience retention and sharing on platforms that highlight visual storytelling. Certain scenes are built for emotional climax and communal reaction. The final tournament, a culmination of tension, rivalry, and personal growth, is crafted to make audiences cheer, gasp, and even discuss hypothetical alternate outcomes. These moments are emotionally layered, combining character arcs, stakes, and cinematic spectacle to maximize engagement. They offer multiple points for debate. Did a character make the right choice? Was the outcome fair? And how does this set up potential future narratives? Such questions enhance the film's cultural footprint and fan interaction. Overall, Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, achieves audience engagement through a combination of action, emotional depth, humor, thematic exploration, and visual design. It balances suspenseful, high-energy sequences with quieter, reflective moments to maintain attention and provoke emotional investment. The film rewards repeat viewing by embedding foreshadowing, subtle gestures, and thematic cues that deepen appreciation over time. Signature moments, from spectacular fight sequences to quiet emotional beats, are designed to linger in memory, provoke discussion, and inspire sharing across social platforms, ensuring the film's presence in both individual reflection and collective fan culture. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, occupies a distinct space within the martial arts and coming-of-age action genre, but placing it in context with similar films and its predecessors helps clarify both its strengths and its limitations. The film naturally invites comparisons to the original Karate Kid films, as well as other martial arts dramas and contemporary action stories that combine physical skill with emotional growth. Examining these connections highlights where the 2025 installment succeeds, where it borrows wisely, and where it struggles to reach the ambition of its forebears. The most immediate comparison is to the original Karate Kid films, particularly the 1984 classic. Both films follow a similar underdog structure, a young fighter struggling with self-doubt, guidance from a wise mentor, and eventual triumph through discipline and perseverance. Karate Kid's Legends honors these conventions, from the training sequences to the climactic tournament. Where it stands out is in updating the visual language, pacing, and choreography for modern audiences. The fight sequences are more polished and cinematic, with contemporary editing techniques, dynamic camera angles, and realistic martial arts moves that reflect advances in stunt coordination since the 1980s. This modernization allows the film to feel fresh while retaining the nostalgic beats that fans of the franchise expect. Comparisons to films like Kung Fu Panda, Cobra Kai series, and recent sports drama hybrids show that Karate Kid's Legends also attempts to balance entertainment with emotional depth. Unlike animated or heavily stylized martial arts films, it maintains a grounded realism, emphasizing the physicality of training and combat. Compared to Cobra Kai, which leans heavily on serialized drama and interpersonal conflict across multiple episodes, Karate Kid's Legends condenses emotional arcs into a single narrative. This makes its storytelling more streamlined, but sacrifices some character complexity in favor of pacing. While Cobra Kai thrives on extended character development and long-term fan investment, Karate Kid's Legends must convey growth and resolution within a limited runtime, which it does efficiently but without the nuanced layering of episodic storytelling. Another comparison can be drawn with films like Creed or Rocky, which combine sports action with personal drama. Like these films, Karate Kid's Legends invests heavily in the underdog journey, capturing the tension and triumph of competitive success. The emotional beats, the mentor-student relationship, the protagonist's personal struggles, and the climactic victory mirror the structure that has made sports dramas resonate for decades. However, whereas Creed explores contemporary social issues and racial dynamics in depth, Karate Kid's Legends focuses more narrowly on personal growth and martial arts philosophy. This choice keeps the story tightly focused but limits its engagement with broader social commentary that other sports dramas often highlight. In terms of stylistic influence, the director's previous work is evident in the careful framing of training montages, the use of natural lighting for outdoor sequences, and the emphasis on physical authenticity. Karate Kid's Legends borrows techniques from past martial arts films, such as long tracking shots to showcase choreography or slow-motion sequences to emphasize dramatic impact. These choices are effective, allowing the audience to follow complex fight sequences while maintaining emotional clarity. Where the film occasionally falters is in moments where stylistic flourishes attempt to heighten tension but instead feel slightly derivative, echoing previous works without adding new insight. The film also positions itself in contrast to blockbuster action films like The Matrix or John Wick, which rely heavily on stylized choreography and digital effects. Karate Kid's Legends deliberately avoids excessive CGI and fantastical moves, emphasizing grounded realism instead. This comparison highlights the film's strengths. It feels authentic, disciplined, and emotionally anchored. However, for audiences expecting over-the-top spectacle common in contemporary action cinema, some sequences may feel restrained or deliberately subdued. The film chooses character-driven action over visual showmanship, which aligns with genre expectations but may disappoint viewers seeking pure adrenaline spectacle. Nostalgia is another area where comparisons are informative. Karate Kid's Legends frequently references past films in the franchise, borrowing iconic moments and lines. This serves as a strength for longtime fans, reinforcing continuity and respect for legacy. At the same time, these callbacks sometimes limit the film's ability to reinvent the story or take bold narrative risks. In comparison to entirely original martial arts films, it leans on familiarity rather than experimenting with new themes or structures. Overall, placing Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, alongside similar films highlights a careful balancing act. It borrows wisely from franchise predecessors and contemporary sports dramas, successfully modernizing visuals and choreography while staying true to core thematic beats. It stands out for grounded realism, mentor-student dynamics, and emotional clarity, while its limitations lie in a relatively narrow social commentary, occasional reliance on nostalgia, and restrained spectacle compared to blockbuster action films. Within the broader cinematic conversation, it succeeds as a respectful, modern continuation of a beloved franchise, updating genre conventions without radically redefining them. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, uses symbolism and metaphor as subtle yet powerful tools to deepen the narrative and reinforce its central themes. While on the surface it is an action-driven martial arts story, careful attention to visual cues, repeated imagery, and narrative motifs reveals layers of meaning that enrich the viewing experience. The film employs objects, colors, and recurring patterns to comment on growth, resilience, and the internal struggles of its characters, creating a cinematic language that rewards attentive viewers. One of the most prominent symbols throughout the film is the dojo itself. Beyond being a physical location for training, the dojo represents discipline, tradition, and personal growth. Scenes within the dojo often use light and shadow to reflect a character's internal state. Early in the film, young fighters are shown practicing in dimly lit, cramped corners, symbolizing their uncertainty and inexperience. As training progresses and confidence grows, the same space is bathed in natural light during key breakthroughs, reinforcing the narrative of enlightenment and self-mastery. The dojo's evolving visual treatment mirrors the characters' journeys, making it both a literal and metaphorical space of transformation. The color palette of the film also serves as a symbolic device. Warm tones, such as muted reds and golden hues, are often associated with moments of triumph, courage, or moral clarity, while cooler blues and grays appear in scenes of doubt, tension, or emotional conflict. For example, during a pivotal match, the protagonist faces a morally ambiguous decision under stark blue lighting, emphasizing hesitation and internal struggle. The deliberate use of color not only conveys mood but subtly communicates thematic undercurrents, signaling shifts in character arcs and emotional stakes without the need for dialogue. Weapons and martial arts tools are another layer of metaphor. Kicks, punches, and traditional training implements are not only physical tools but also extensions of discipline, willpower, and philosophy. A recurring motif is the breaking of boards or other training objects, which is visually simple yet symbolically rich. Each successful break signifies growth, mastery, and overcoming internal and external obstacles. This metaphor extends beyond the dojo, as the act of breaking a board parallels breaking through fear, self-doubt, or societal expectations. The film consistently ties physical action to emotional and philosophical growth, using martial arts itself as a metaphor for personal development. Repetition of certain images reinforces thematic continuity. Mirrors, for instance, appear in training sequences and reflective moments, serving as metaphors for self-awareness and identity. When a character confronts their reflection, it often coincides with introspection or moral choice, suggesting that true mastery involves understanding oneself as much as mastering technique. Mirrors also visually echo the idea that growth is gradual and often involves confronting flaws, insecurities, and inner conflicts. The recurring presence of these reflective surfaces ties character development to the film's visual language, making subtle commentary on maturity and self-perception. Mentorship and passing down knowledge are also embedded metaphorically. In several scenes, older characters physically guide the hands or stance of younger students. These gestures are literal instruction but also symbolize the transmission of values, wisdom, and ethical frameworks. The act of guiding becomes a recurring visual metaphor for legacy, emphasizing that success is not just individual but communal, built on relationships, trust, and shared understanding. The final tournament carries layered symbolism as well. It is more than a test of skill. It represents the culmination of internal growth, ethical choices, and emotional resilience. The arena's circular design is a subtle metaphor for cycles of learning and life, where victories and losses both carry significance beyond the immediate outcome. Key moves within matches are framed to emphasize balance, control, and respect, visually reinforcing the film's thematic commitment to discipline and integrity. The film also uses natural elements symbolically. Rain, wind, and sunlight often coincide with critical emotional beats. A training session under heavy rain may symbolize struggle and cleansing, while a sunrise during a breakthrough moment conveys hope, renewal, and potential. Nature is not just background, it mirrors the character's inner states and reinforces thematic resonance. Even costume choices carry metaphorical weight. Traditional martial arts uniforms represent discipline and belonging, while subtle deviations, such as color accents or worn patches, reflect individuality, experience, and personal growth. These visual cues enrich the narrative, signaling character development without explicit exposition. Overall, Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, demonstrates a careful layering of symbolism and metaphor, using dojo spaces, color palettes, repeated imagery, physical actions, and environmental cues to deepen the narrative. These elements invite viewers to look beyond the surface action, revealing nuanced commentary on identity, growth, discipline, and legacy. By weaving metaphor and symbolism throughout the visual and narrative fabric, the film rewards repeat viewing and attentive analysis, creating a richer, more resonant cinematic experience. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, exists firmly within the Karate Kid franchise, and its placement in the series reflects both a respect for legacy and an effort to modernize the story for contemporary audiences. The film functions as a continuation of the franchise's themes of mentorship, personal growth, and martial arts philosophy, while introducing new characters and updated conflicts to keep the narrative fresh. Understanding its franchise context helps clarify choices around continuity, character callbacks, and narrative structure, as well as how the film balances nostalgia with innovation. From the opening scene, the film signals its connection to previous installments. Familiar locations, training methods, and philosophical principles echo the original 1984 Karate Kid, while new dojo settings and contemporary urban environments indicate that the story has moved forward in time. These choices establish continuity while allowing new viewers to engage without prior knowledge of the franchise. Longtime fans, however, are rewarded with subtle Easter eggs, familiar lines, recurring training rituals, and references to iconic fights and mentors. These callbacks do not dominate the narrative, but enrich it for those attuned to the franchise history. Character continuity is particularly important in this installment. Returning figures, such as Daniel LaRusso, appear as mentors or advisors, linking the story across generations. Their presence is handled with care, showing growth since their original arcs and reinforcing the franchise's overarching themes of resilience and mentorship. These characters serve as bridges, connecting the original narrative to the new protagonists while demonstrating the long-term impact of earlier lessons. New characters, meanwhile, are carefully introduced with arcs that mirror traditional Karate Kid journeys: struggle, training, and eventual triumph, ensuring thematic cohesion across the series. The interplay between returning and new characters maintains continuity while expanding the story world. Timeline placement is another crucial aspect of franchise context. Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, positions itself several years after the events of the original films, allowing the new generation of fighters to face contemporary challenges. This temporal leap provides opportunities to explore modern social dynamics, cultural intersections, and updated martial arts techniques. At the same time, the film carefully respects past events, acknowledging the influence of previous tournaments and mentorships on the characters' current circumstances. By doing so, it preserves the franchise's internal logic and ensures that audience investment in the legacy of the series feels rewarded rather than ignored. Narrative continuity is reinforced through recurring themes and motifs. The emphasis on mentorship, ethical competition, respect for tradition, and personal growth remains central, aligning with the moral backbone of the franchise. Training montages, dojo sequences, and tournament arcs echo familiar patterns while incorporating new challenges and higher stakes. The film demonstrates an awareness of the franchise's rhythm, using these familiar beats as a foundation to explore contemporary issues, such as cultural diversity, technological influence in sports, and generational tensions. This careful balance ensures that the story is both recognizable and relevant. Easter eggs and subtle references play an important role in engaging dedicated fans. Cameos, visual callbacks, and dialogue nods to previous films create layers of recognition and reward attentive viewers. For example, a training sequence may replicate the movement of an iconic kick from the original film, or a mentor's advice may reference lessons first introduced decades ago. These details do not alienate new viewers but add depth for franchise enthusiasts, reinforcing a sense of shared history. In terms of franchise development, Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, advances the overarching story by introducing a new generation of fighters and conflicts while maintaining the philosophical and emotional core of the original films. It sets up potential future installments by hinting at unresolved rivalries, ongoing mentorship challenges, and the growth of secondary characters. By doing so, it positions itself as both a continuation and a launching point for further narrative expansion. While the film largely respects continuity, it does take selective liberties to heighten drama or streamline the story. Timelines may be compressed, character histories slightly adjusted, and training sequences dramatized beyond strict realism. These choices serve storytelling efficiency and cinematic impact rather than historical fidelity, emphasizing that narrative clarity and emotional resonance take precedence over rigid adherence to chronology. Overall, Karate Kid's Legends, 2025, succeeds as a franchise entry by carefully balancing continuity, homage, and innovation. It honors the legacy of past films while creating space for new characters, modern themes, and updated visual storytelling. Easter eggs, character arcs, and thematic consistency reward longtime fans, while streamlined exposition and contemporary context ensure accessibility for newcomers. Its historical liberties are minor and purposeful, enhancing engagement without undermining franchise integrity. The film ultimately strengthens the Karate Kid series, bridging generations and setting the stage for future narratives within the established world. Karate Kid's Legends 2025 achieved notable financial success, surpassing its production budget and establishing itself as a strong entry in the franchise. The film was produced with a reported budget of around $45 million, which is considered mid-range for a martial arts action film of this scale. Despite not being a blockbuster-level budget, the production made smart use of resources to create a visually appealing and emotionally engaging movie. The film grossed approximately $115 million worldwide, showing a solid return on investment and indicating that the story, performances, and production value resonated with audiences both domestically and internationally. This success is a clear indicator that the film managed to deliver a high-quality experience without relying solely on extravagant spending. From a production standpoint, the film presents a polished aesthetic that exceeds expectations for a mid-range budget. The fight choreography is carefully designed to feel authentic, dynamic, and cinematic, showcasing a range of martial arts techniques that keep the audience engaged. Cinematography and camera work highlight the physicality of the actors while capturing the emotional beats of the story. Production design, including set construction, props, and location choices, creates an immersive world that feels both realistic and visually compelling. Costuming is also thoughtfully executed, with traditional martial arts uniforms, casual clothing, and urban settings all contributing to the story's authenticity and atmosphere. The allocation of the budget demonstrates efficiency, with resources directed toward elements that enhance both visual appeal and narrative clarity. Casting also played a crucial role in maximizing the impact of the production budget. By combining established actors with emerging talent, the filmmakers balanced star power and fresh energy, attracting both longtime fans and new viewers. The marketing and release strategy further contributed to the film's financial performance. Released in late May 2025, the film entered a competitive summer window, where multiple high-profile movies typically debut. Choosing this release period allowed the film to benefit from the increased movie-going audience while facing competition from other large-scale releases. The film opened in a wide number of theaters, ensuring accessibility for a broad range of viewers. This strategy was key in maximizing box office returns, particularly during the critical opening weekend, when the film earned over $20 million domestically. Positive word-of-mouth and audience reception helped sustain attendance in the following weeks, contributing to its overall box office performance. The film's revenue breakdown shows that domestic earnings reached approximately $52 million, while international markets added an additional $63 million, bringing the worldwide total to approximately $115 million. This performance positions the film as one of the more successful entries in the Karate Kid franchise, highlighting its ability to engage audiences globally. While it did not surpass some previous high-grossing entries, particularly the 2010 reboot, it still achieved a notable return relative to its production budget. The international appeal is particularly significant, as martial arts films often resonate with audiences across different cultures due to their universal themes of discipline, perseverance, and personal growth. The film's financial success is also indicated by its ability to more than double its production budget. Doubling the budget in gross revenue is a common benchmark for profitability in the film industry, showing that the film earned back its production costs and generated additional revenue for the studio. Audience reception further supports the film's success. Positive reviews and feedback reflect the effectiveness of the story, performances, and production quality in engaging viewers. A favorable reception also contributes to the potential for continued profitability through secondary revenue streams such as home entertainment, digital rentals, streaming platforms, and merchandise. In evaluating the film's overall financial performance, it is clear that Karate Kid's Legends 2025 demonstrates the importance of combining efficient production, strategic marketing, and broad distribution. The film manages to appear richer and more polished than its mid-range budget might suggest, achieving visual and narrative quality that competes with higher-budget films. Its wide release, careful timing, and strong audience engagement contributed to box office success, while international appeal helped boost overall earnings. The balance between production value and financial prudence highlights how mid-budget films can succeed when creative and logistical elements are thoughtfully managed. Overall, Karate Kid's Legends 2025 proves that a well-executed film can achieve profitability without relying on extravagant spending. Its financial success underscores the importance of effective resource management, smart marketing, and careful release planning. The film's ability to deliver high production quality, engaging performances, and a compelling story while maintaining a solid return on investment demonstrates that films do not need blockbuster-level budgets to succeed. Karate Kid's Legends 2025 serves as a model for how mid-range budget films can achieve both critical and commercial success, balancing quality, accessibility, and audience appeal to maximize financial performance. The film's strong worldwide earnings, positive reception, and efficient use of resources collectively highlight how a well-planned production can punch above its weight in terms of impact and profitability. As of September 2025, audiences have multiple options to watch Karate Kid Legends 2025, whether they prefer the immersive experience of a theater, the convenience of digital platforms, or the comfort of home viewing. For those seeking the cinematic experience, Karate Kid Legends is currently available in theaters. This option offers the full impact of the film's action sequences, choreography, and sound design, providing an immersive experience that is best appreciated on the big screen. Theaters also offer the advantage of high-quality visuals and sound, enhancing the overall viewing experience. For viewers who prefer to watch the film at home, Karate Kid Legends is available for digital rental and purchase on platforms such as Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and Fandango at home. Rental prices typically range from $19.99, while purchasing the film may cost around $24.99. These platforms offer the convenience of watching the film at one's own pace and comfort. Additionally, the film is available in 4K quality on these platforms, ensuring a high-definition viewing experience. For those who prefer to wait for the film to become available as part of a streaming subscription, Karate Kid Legends is expected to be available on Netflix in the near future. This aligns with Sony's typical release pattern for films, where they become available on Netflix a few months after their digital release. While an exact date has not been confirmed, it's anticipated that the film will be added to Netflix's library in the coming months. In summary, audiences have several options to watch Karate Kid Legends 2025, each catering to different preferences. Whether choosing the theater for an immersive experience, digital platforms for convenience, or waiting for the film to become available on a streaming subscription, viewers can select the option that best suits their viewing preferences. If you enjoyed this video and would like us to provide reviews of every kind of movie, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.
Goodbye.